Welcome back to the OK Not OK podcast. I am Dr. OK, and today it is yet again the OK question of the week where no one has sent in any questions. Now, I would like to blame all of you out there, but you're apparently not getting the message even since I'm not getting any great views here. So I'm going to leave you off the hook for now and blame YouTube. So let's go turn those shorts views into long form views and come here to watch the OK question of the week and then come back and go to X at Dr. OK and send me your question of the week so that I can answer them instead of having to hear yet again from the SportsZu. So here he is. Doc, it looked like we should have had a 4-on-4 War Games match, but somehow now it looks like we need to get to 5-on-5. So, who should be the 5th member for each team? SportsZu, I feel like this one is more up your territory, but it is a very important and relevant question. If I'm General Manager Pierce or General Manager Aldis, I've got some work to do to fill in the 5th spot for both of these War Game teams for both the OG Bloodline and the new Bloodline. Now, I hope they'll be able to recruit themselves, but in case they need some help, I've got some ideas for the top 5 potential teams to fill out the War Games rosters on the men's side. So first, let's say who shouldn't be on these War Games teams. First and foremost, it's The Rock. We're not going to have the final boss show up to be on either of these two teams. He simply is the final boss. War Games is not nearly final enough for him to put his body on the line to be on either of these two squads. So that's just a crazy idea. We're not gonna see him. Even though he showed up at Bad Blood, that was merely for a few seconds and he was quite far away from getting in the ring. That's not gonna be any different here. He's not gonna be participating. Next, any other Bloodline member who we have not yet met. I'm sure all of these Bloodline family members are out there somewhere, but I don't know if they're even wrestling or not. As far as I know, I've not seen anybody else on either the main roster or on NXT actually have a match, so I'm going to assume they're not going to be a choice right now. So no surprise, new Bloodline entrance. And lastly, no one who's currently injured. We're not going to assume that anyone makes a miraculous comeback from an injury. Most notably, Randy Orton. I don't think he's going to be returning anytime soon after he injured his neck from the pile driver that Kevin Owens delivered last week. So here's the top 5 pairings for each of these. I think pairings are the only way for this to make sense. If you have 2 random people showing up, that really doesn't do a lot of good, right? So let's say we had Rey Mysterio on one team and then we could have someone like Apollo Crews on the other team. I don't know why such a weird combination of 5th members you would see something like that. So it really just doesn't go along together. So we're going to have them actually have some history and most notably current history going on in order to make sense to have a match. So let's just get it started with number 5, which will be Andrade and Carmelo Hayes, because we know we still need to have a Game 7. So how would we get to this possibility? Well, we're going to have another Game 7. So this is Game 7 Part 2. And yet again, there will not be a clean finish because the new Bloodline will have their eyes out for Carmelo Hayes and they will help him to try to win Game 7. And so once that Game 7 victory has been decided, Carmelo Hayes will officially accept an invitation to join the new Bloodline, and then Andrade will go to the OTC Roman Reigns and ask for him to be added to the team, and seeing just how big of an asset he would be to go up against Carmelo Hayes, he will be accepted, and then we will see Andrade with the OG Bloodline and Carmelo Hayes with the new Bloodline. So that takes us right into number 4, kind of a similar route, what we will have here is LA Knight on the OG Bloodline side and Logan Paul joining the new Bloodline. So how would this one possibly come about? Well, we will have Solo Sikoa going to the middle of the ring saying that he has a special announcement naming a ringer to his team. And sure enough, the Mavericks music will play and Logan Paul will come on out to the middle of the ring saying that he could not pass up the opportunity for another shot to take out Roman Reigns and the Usos, where he knows that the only reason why he is not the undisputed WWE champion was because of the Usos interfering in his match against Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel. So to get back at them even further, Logan Paul, for just a little bit of sum of money from the new Bloodline, will happily join them to get his revenge. So of course, right then, LA Knight will come out and he'll say, no, this is not how it's going to go down. And LA Knight's going to run on down to the ring and then take a whooping by the entire new Bloodline. However, once he's finally revived, he will go to the entire OG Bloodline, ask for him to be added, and they will be impressed that even though he and Roman Reigns have not seen eye to eye over the years, that they will put their differences aside and join forces to take down the new Bloodline and Logan Paul. Now, of course, I'll say in a side note, it certainly could be possible to have a little mix and match here. Let's just say that Carmelo Hayes wins Game 7 against Andrade, and then LA Knight will want another shot at him, so Hayes will join the new Bloodline, then Knight will ask to join the OG Bloodline, and since that is a rivalry in progress, they will happily accept it. So we could, of course, get Knight with the OG Bloodline and Hayes with the new Bloodline. So let's go to number 3, and we will switch from SmackDown over to Monday Night Raw, where we had Jimmy Uso wanting to speak to Braun Breaker about joining the OG Bloodline. Now, we did not get an answer as to that question. So since he didn't answer, we can only assume that there's nothing definitive going on there. So instead, Braun Breaker will go into his IC title match against Sheamus this week on Monday Night Raw. But just when Sheamus looks like he very well may win his first ever IC championship, the new Bloodline comes out and takes out Sheamus to allow Breaker to retain the title. So Breaker then says he has an announcement, and instead of saying that he'll join the OG Bloodline, he says that he will join the new Bloodline. So of course, Sheamus, who will be very upset at that point, even though he faced off against the OG Bloodline at War Games 2022, well, he's ready to flip sides and join the OG Bloodline to get his revenge against the entire new Bloodline and Braun Breaker. And we'll stick with Monday Night Raw for number 2. As we know, Seth Rollins just said no to both the OG Bloodline and to the new Bloodline on this week's Monday Night Raw. But as I said yesterday, let's go back to the tape to see what I also had to say about that very scenario. We did see Seth Rollins flatly reject Sami Zayn because he said that Roman Reigns is a tyrant and he is shocked that anyone would join up with Roman Reigns. And he said that Zayn is blind if he can't see that Reigns is using him yet again. And to that I say, yes, Seth, you are correct, sir. I'm glad you are talking sense. But here's the problem. It seems that every time someone tries to talk some sense into another member of the old Bloodline, they quickly decide to rejoin the old Bloodline. As it was first Jay speaking to Jimmy about rejoining Reigns, and then he did indeed rejoin them, and then Sami did the same with Jay, and of course after Crown Jewel he decided to speak to Reigns and rejoin them just this past Friday. So if that holds true, I guess Seth will also be joining the OG Bloodline next week on Raw. Pretty wise words by the doc there, huh? Yeah, pretty smart guy. So that is exactly what is going to happen here. But how is it going to happen? Well, Big Bronson Reed is going to battle Seth Rollins this Monday night on the upcoming Raw. And sure enough, just like we said for Braun Breaker, instead it will be the New Bloodline helping out Big Bronson Reed to instead defeat Seth Rollins. And so basically the same scenario plays out there, but unlike with the Breaker scenario, Reed is very hesitant to join the New Bloodline as he likes to work alone. However, he says he realizes that will put him into the main event of Survivor Series and that will make him more famous. So because of that reason and not due to the help that he just got, he will reluctantly join with the New Bloodline. So this, of course, makes Seth Rollins incensed. So he still says no, he's not joining this match, and he will go to Adam Pearce yet again and demand a rematch against Big Bronson Reed. But this time Adam Pearce says no. He says, last week I told you that this would be the last match, and he's sticking to his guns. So only at that point does Seth Rollins say that he needs another match against Big Bronson Reed, and if this is the only way that he's going to get that match, he will indeed join up against the New Bloodline and Bronson Reed, and finally find his way back onto the same side as his former Shield teammate, Roman Reigns. And finally, at number 1, we will have Cody Rhodes yet again joining up with Roman Reigns to be part of the OG Bloodline team, with Kevin Owens joining the New Bloodline. Wow. So how do we possibly get here? Well, Sami Zayn and Jey Uso both show up to SmackDown this Friday night. They of course say they want Cody Rhodes more than anyone else to join them for War Games, but he says no, he's got to put all of his attention onto Kevin Owens now that KO has injured his friend Randy Orton. And of course, Jey and Zayn say they completely understand and agree that that makes perfect sense, so they plan to leave him alone and look for other offers. However, Kevin Owens later in the night goes to the middle of the ring and demands for Cody Rhodes to come down so those two can fight it out right there, right now. And guess what? Cody Rhodes does come to the ring, but not under his own power, because the entire New Bloodline is carrying Cody Rhodes down into the ring as he is already a bloody mess and practically passed out. So they go into the ring, they throw Rhodes down right at KO's feet. So KO looks at Rhodes and then looks at the New Bloodline and kind of just shrugs his shoulders at them. But before anything can be said, sure enough, Sami Zayn and Jey Uso run down to the ring where they immediately try to fight the New Bloodline, but they are immediately taken down. Now Kevin Owens does not move a muscle here as he just stands there and watches. But then Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso also come on down to the ring and the fight continues. And only at that point does KO get involved to try to take out Roman Reigns. And at the end of it, it is indeed the New Bloodline and Kevin Owens standing tall over top of all of them. At that point, KO looks down at Sami Zayn and just shakes his head and walks out with the New Bloodline. So at the end of the night, Cody Rhodes is finally recovered enough and he finds Roman Reigns backstage. And speaking with him and the other OG Bloodline members, he accepts being the 5th member on the team. So of course, we get another Kevin Owens video that they show on Raw, even though he wouldn't be there because he's not allowed to be on that show. Kevin Owens says that because Cody Rhodes has joined, The OG Bloodline team, he is now officially joining the new Bloodline as the 5th member. So that is the ultimate War Games roster. It remains to be seen who exactly will be added to these War Games teams, but if you want to see what grades I gave in this recruitment process on Monday Night Raw, be sure to go right here to check it out. But if they decide to go another route and it's not one of these teams, that certainly would be not okay.